You better be doing something useful with AI, because if you aren't, you're going to cause the entire global economy to collapse. That's what the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, is saying. This is insane, and we really need to take a look at this, because I cannot believe these words have been spoken. It is bonkers. So this is PC Gamer, and they've dropped a nice article on this. But basically, over in Davos in Switzerland, the World Economic Forum is on. So a lot of the big major tech CEOs all over there. Obviously, they're all talking about AI and hardware and all that stuff. And this affects us, as you know, because it's pumping the price up. And I'll show you in this video, but it's pumping the price up of a lot of computer-related hardware, not just for PCs. It's going to have a knock-on effect in the mobile phone market, in the console market. Absolutely everything is going up because of AI. And Satya Nadella is saying we're losing social permission because we need to do something useful, or rather you need to do something useful with AI instead of talking about it being slop. We've also got Jensen from Nvidia moaning about this as well, and OpenAI is burning so much money it looks like they're on the verge of collapsing unless they get another massive injection of cash. So there's a lot going on here. This is actually insane. So this article, you can see the title reads, Microsoft CEO warns that we must do something useful with AI or they'll lose social permission to burn electricity on it. And the insanity of all of this is it is not our fault. Give us something which is useful. A chatbot which just says shit is not useful, right? Some of these AI tools as well, when they're used to generate content and the content is completely inaccurate. I have an example. I was using Gemini last night. This was, well, it is the Google system. Now, I was looking, it's always mountain bikes for me, but I was looking at 2 mountain bikes and I was trying to work out the specifications of each bike. And I thought, you know what I'll do here? I'll screenshot each one. I'll slap them into Gemini and I'll say, make me a graph that just compares both of them. I'm thinking it'll be quite good at this AI. It got the specifications of the one bike completely wrong. It was a white Kado 2026 special edition, and the suspension it was listing was not the suspension on the product page, of which I'd linked it to and provided it a screenshot of. I had to tell it, no, this is wrong, and then it went back and sort of went, oh yeah, sorry, and then gave me the correct results. That is slop, and that is dangerous, because you can't obviously use that in a scenario where you rely on the data for something critical, because it may be wrong. You see people talking about, well, let's just replace lawyers, let's replace accountants with AI. Would you do that if it can't even get basic things correct? Probably not. But that's, I guess, a chat bot or a sort of basic model. It's not some super fancy specific AI, which this is what I always sort of dreamt about AI. And, you know, when AI started becoming a big thing, this is what I was hoping it would do. Is generate new drugs, is push technology forward with new innovations and things like that can only be achieved with AI and with powerful computers. Things like the folding of proteins, that was worked out with AI. That's what I want to see. That is insane, not just a bullshit chatbot. So it's not our fault, it's their fault that they're giving us slop to use. And the problem with this is it's eating up all of the hardware, which is skyrocketing the prices of anything gaming related. And this is what's causing a lack, or a loss, as he calls it here, of social permissions, which is batshit insane. Also as well, the knock-on effect of this is because of the high electricity usage in areas where they're building these data centers, generally electricity prices are increasing, which is again causing a problem to the average person, because they're like, what am I actually getting from this AI? Not much, just increased prices of everything that I'm using, which is not great. Which, well, yeah, I think a lot of these CEOs are basically saying like, oh yeah, well, eventually we'll make something great and we have to push forward and we've got to kind of take this. It's like, no, you don't. They need to be better with their AI models, and they simply aren't. So the actual quote is this: we will quickly lose even the social permission to take something like energy, which is a scarce resource, and use it to generate these tokens. If these tokens are not improving health outcomes, education outcomes, public sector efficiency, private sector competitiveness across all sectors, small and large, right, said Nadella, I apologize. And that to me is ultimately the goal. So, I mean, he goes on to say the demand side of this is a little bit like every firm has to start using it, said Nadella, throwing in some industry standard hyperbole about AI as a cognitive amplifier that gives you access to infinite minds. The CEO added that the AI industry needs to encourage job seekers to pick up AI skills in the same way people master Excel to make themselves more employable. People need to say, oh, I pick up this AI skill and now I'm a better provider of some product or service in the real economy. I mean, we could go on, but we're not going to go on because it's insane. Like, I've seen people talk, you see Darian from Anthropic talking about this a lot, going, oh, if you think of children today, they need to be AI native. What we don't want is, I think also the guy from DeepMind speaks about this a lot. Like if you look at the children of 10 years ago, they were digital native, internet native. Well, the next generation, they need to be all AI native and know how to use these models. That's fine. And I do agree that these models do help certain workflows and they do make certain things better. Like I've gave the example before, I will use AI in Photoshop to extend backgrounds in thumbnails. It's called generative fill. It generates an extended image based on whatever it's got. I generally use this for extending like basic gradient backgrounds out and stuff like that. Obviously, I would never use it to generate a complete thumbnail, which it could do, but it would look horrific and it's not something I'd be interested in. But I wouldn't use it for that. But what that's doing to me, it is a force amplifier, almost like a cognitive amplifier, as these CEOs want to call it, because it's reducing the time I have to mess around trying to match a gradient or using a clone stamp tool, whatever, right? It's just bang, it's straight away. This is great. But that's not really worth a data center, is it? That's not worth insane prices and everything else. What would be is if you're going, we've cured cancer. We've got some new insane design for some product that we couldn't possibly design before. We've got fusion power because AI's worked it out. This type of shit, right? That's the type of madness we want, not there's just an AI chatbot or there's an AI customer service agent, which probably won't listen to what you're saying. Anyway, that's what is really infuriating. So this is over on Windows Central. Again, there's a link to all of these sources in the videos below, and the authors producing this stuff, they're doing great work. But this is the quote that he made. But what I want to read is the author's thoughts around this, because it sums up what's going on here. It's actually crazy. When you read this, it's actually insane. So, we don't want to scroll up. Basically, he's saying, interestingly, what is going on here? Interestingly, look at this. When I grab that there, go, what's this? Sort your website out. You need to get some AI running. Okay, I won't highlight it because clearly it doesn't want to be highlighted. Interestingly, Nadella's comments about AI needing to prove its usefulness in society weeks after he expressed his desire and hope for society to embrace technology as it continues to advance and move on from heavy mockery and criticism of AI. Slop. And the full quote is, we as a global community have to get to a point where we're using this to do something useful that changes the outcomes of communities and countries and industries. Otherwise, I don't think this makes much sense. In fact, I would say we'll quickly lose even the social permission to actually take something like energy, which is a scarce resource, and use it to generate these tokens. And then the article says, however, Nadella's plea seemingly had the opposite effect, earning Microsoft a new nickname, Microslop. Now, the executive says more organizations need to get on board with AI on a larger scale to prevent it from becoming a bubble. Yes, a bubble. Oh, dearie me. So I think, like, fundamentally here with this AI stuff, especially from, I guess the perspective of, let's say, Microsoft, they're building out a lot of this AI compute, they like to call it. So they're building data centers. They're getting loads of hardware in, loads of storage, loads of RAM, loads of GPUs or TPUs or whatever they're using to do all the AI stuff. And it generates or requires a ton of power. Then they're running people's models for them. And it's like, hey, yeah, use AI to do this. They've got their own models like Copilot. They've got heavy investment into OpenAI. And they're doing all of this stuff. But they're not actually seeing like a meaningful sort of revenue increase from that at the moment. So they're saying, no, companies and businesses need to use more AI, get it in more, intrinsic to their whatever systems they're using. And then they'll start seeing value from it. The problem I've got is I don't think... It's not like you must have seen the outrageous stuff where there's like AI is just attached to everything. Like you get a toothbrush and it'll be AI enhanced. It's like, what? How is that AI enhanced? That is not AI enhanced, right? So it is a buzzword, and it's also a buzzword and has been for a while in the corporate environment where it's been added into every business. Yeah, we've got AI. This is AI powered. We're using AI for this. But is it actually resulting in increased revenue and actually making those businesses more money? This is the crunch time, and I think a lot of business is going to fall into the category of no, it isn't. We're spending a lot on it, and we don't need this stuff. And in fact, those businesses that are firing employees, I think, are starting to learn, oh shit, we need the people back because the AIs are not doing what we thought they would do. It's all about Jensen. Okay, well, I actually seen this a couple of days ago, and it is from January the 11th. I was tempted to make a video on this at the time, and I thought, I'll let it run, but I probably should have done something with it because it is, again, it's mental. So Jensen, he says, relentless negativity around AI is hurting society and has done a lot of damage. Now, it's very, I believe what's happening here with these CEOs is they are, especially tech CEOs, I think they're looking and thinking this is a revolutionary technology, and what this can do, we've never seen anything that's been able to do this before, and it's making advancements much quicker. You'll often see a lot of these CEOs, I go back to the the DeepMind CEO, Anthropic CEO, probably Sam Altman as well, Jensen definitely. All these people are saying like, yeah, it amplifies the amount of work we can do in a certain time frame. It can do so much. It can look at tons of different things. You guys may have seen examples of like, they were saying, you could use AI for radiology, right? So if you've had a X-ray, the AI could look at the X-ray and it would compare your X-ray to like hundreds of millions of other X-rays in a massive database, and when it works out, and he goes, oh, maybe there's something here that should be looked at. And we're thinking, oh my God, holy shit, that is insane, right? That's way better than just one radiologist looking at that. But actually, it's turned out that the radiologists are just using the AI as like an assistive tool, and then which we would want them to do, right, to check it out and see what's going on. So really, is it making the detection of issues faster? Who knows? But it's not this sort of magic bullet that it initially people thought it might be. And what I'm trying to say here is when you look back at the tech CEOs and the way they go about this, especially Jensen, I think what they're seeing is this like fantastic increase in computing power, which is basically what AI is. AI doesn't think, but it can give you what it thinks is the answer based off, I guess, probability. Very complicated, and I don't begin to even pretend I understand transformer architecture and all of that stuff, and the way LLMs work and other different types of models. But essentially, I think what they see is this: we need to reach a critical mass. We're not sure what that is, and then suddenly a lot of things will be possible. So they're almost like operating on a level way and beyond everyone else, but we don't really have any, like, nothing to show for it. Yeah, we see stupid videos getting generated, stupid images. Yeah, we see like, oh, I can talk to a chatbot, and sometimes it's quite okay. Other times I have to check what it's doing. I used AI. This again is another example, a weird example, but the fire alarm was going off and I did not know how to turn it off because it was this big control panel. So I took a picture of it using Gemini and I said, how do I turn this off? And it gave me a step-by-step guide because it obviously Googled what the unit was, found out, gave me the info, and I'm like, oh, this is actually a really cool use of AI, nice one. But I'm not getting that every day off it, right? You know, it's not useful all the time. And again, this goes back to the question of, does that warrant this massive explosion in investment? It probably doesn't, right? So there's a lot of issues, but I think these CEOs are way too far in the camp of, we're looking at what's going to be possible in the future once we've got this massive amount of compute ready. So you guys just need to calm down. And reality is actually no, because it's impacting us in our wallets, because this is driving up the price of everything related to, you know, living in the modern world. Your electricity price is going up. Water prices to some degree are getting impacted. Your local environment is being impacted if you live next to a data center because they're fucking massive. You know, you're also having like, I think some of the XAI data centers have got massive gas turbines by them, so have absolutely destroyed the air quality in the area around where they are. So yeah, it's just like, ugh. Okay, so this is Tom's Hardware, and I want to show you this because this is actually really interesting. So the Kioxia, or a Kioxia executive says the AI boom means the era of cheap 1 terabyte SSDs is over. NAND supply is sold out for this year and likely through 2027. So this is a major producer of NAND SSD memory. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this, but I want to show you a great chart on this, which again shows the issue with AI. So it's all right with all of the memes and people going, AI shit, it's slop, whatever. But when that starts to have an impact on your wallet, this is where the issues start arising from. Look at these prices. So a Corsair M700 Pro 1 terabyte has had a 38% price increase. It is now $220 basically, and it used to be $160. And then it just gets more expensive as we go on. Look at this Samsung Pro, but this Samsung 870 Evo, which I believe I've got those in my, I think I've got 990 Pros in mine. Can't remember, whatever. I've got two terabyte SSDs in there, but whatever. NAND SSDs, you know, the super fast ones, but whatever. This here, if you're looking at this one here is 132% increase. That is like $300, and it used to cost $129. What I'm getting at is my computer was built like it's about 18 months old, I think. But if it was built now, it would be so much more expensive simply because of AI. That AI is having no impact really on my life. So I'm not happy. Okay, for a laugh, I thought, what actually is my storage? And I've found out it's Corsair MP60 Pro XT 2 terabyte. And I've got two of these, right, in my computer. Now, remember, I bought this PC. I mean, it was back in 2024. I want to say, or maybe it was the start of 25. I don't know. I think it's about 18 months old, this PC. Anyway, right, look at the price change. So it used to be say £163, right? That's probably the best deal at this sort of point here, we could say. But then as we go up here to now, so like we'll go to January the 21st. It is now £384 for one of these. I mean, I don't think more cocoa is actually selling anymore because they've never changed the price if you look at the graph. But that's crazy? It's like, what? That's actually insane. That is crazy. That is crazy. Now, of course, with all of this stuff about increasing memory prices and RAM prices, if there is indeed an AI bubble pop, all of this stuff will absolutely tank because there'll be no more people like the big hyperscalers who were buying all of the memory up won't actually be able to afford to buy it. So there'll just be memory all over the place and prices should drop. So that might be one benefit of if this all goes, just completely to hell. Okay, let's talk about this OpenAI thing. Again, this was something I was going to put a video together on, and I thought, okay, I'll wait until there's a bit more info. And then Satya Nadella popped up with his craziness from Microsoft. But this is quite bad. So OpenAI might torch 14 billion. Again, this is from Windows Central. In 2026, hitting bankruptcy by next year, burning through wads of cash. Can it keep its operations afloat? Now, OpenAI doesn't make any money. It loses money because what it's trying to do is get investment from everywhere to build. It's like in an arms race to build loads of data centers and loads of compute, which just means data centers basically, and the power to run AI models, to then develop their AI models, which they then are going to try and sell, and then also slam adverts into all their free versions of it to try and make as much money as possible as they go on this path to try and generate some sort of AI super duper intelligence. And this article sort of breaks this down, and it goes over what the whole issue is with them. And we get this nice graphic here from Artificial Intelligence over on Instagram saying that they're rapidly losing money. And this isn't really a shock, right? This is what they've done forever. Like, they have never made money. They've just taken massive amounts of money off everybody else to try and develop their AI system. So in some ways, I'm not shocked by this, but this does mean, how the hell are they going to make money to keep this going? Because the amount of money that's been invested in them is historically stupid amounts. That cannot continue. They need to make money somehow. So what are they going to do? So let's jump over to Gizmodo, because this is quite interesting, right? So remember, Microsoft is a big investor into OpenAI. And apparently some documents came out that disclosed Microsoft influence as OpenAI became a revenue-crazed behemoth. Now, a peek inside OpenAI is it changed from do-gooder computer lab to whatever it is now, which is, remember, it was like a non-profit organization, but of course it's very much become a for-profit organization. And I think what I wanted to show you on here is there was a section of this. I think it's this bit here. So GPT-3, which was even more exciting than GPT-2, was released in 2020, and the first version of OpenAI's language model, DALL-E, was released in 2021. The next month, Microsoft and OpenAI were negotiating an additional injection of money from Microsoft, and Sam Altman wrote an email to Microsoft saying, "We want to do everything we can to make you all commercially successful, and are happy to move significantly from the term sheet." He added that he wanted to make you all a bunch of money as quickly as we can for you to be enthusiastic about making this additional investment soon. Yeah, and then goes on to say in November of 2022, ChatGPT was released, and as you know, all hell broke loose. In January of 2023, Nadella sent a text message to Altman saying, "When do you think you will activate your paid subscription for ChatGPT?" Altman said he was hoping to be ready by the end of Jan, but we can be flexible beyond that. The only real reason for rushing it is we are just so out of capacity in delivering a bad user experience, and asked any preference on when we do it. He says, let me think about it and weigh in. Overall, getting this in place sooner is best, Nadella replied. 2 weeks later, he followed up and asked, "How many subs have you guys added to ChatGPT?" 3 days later, the paid version of ChatGPT launched. So how does OpenAI make money? This video is becoming crazy, but I'm just on such a mad one. Let's go for it. So OpenAI, they have announced, as of 16th of January, they are going to put adverts into the free tiers of ChatGPT. So you can see an example of it here, right? So you're searching for something and then there's an advert. They say the adverts won't be inserted into whatever you're searching for. Imagine if you're asking it for, I don't know, what example. I suddenly can't think of any examples, but you can get what I'm saying here, right? If you're talking about a recipe, then OpenAI is just suddenly going, okay, buy this, buy this, buy this, and the things that are appearing are companies that have paid to appear there. If that happens, which probably will happen, then this is going to kind of ruin what this was supposed to be, because it's just going to be injected with adverts. However, you can pay to get rid of the adverts. So it's like, there's a lot of discussion around this of almost taking like what was essentially an internet search business like Google back in the day and turning it into a subscription business. So imagine if everybody paid Google $10 a month to use Google. Well, that would be a completely different internet, wouldn't it? But their model was built on advertising. ChatGPT are trying to do both here. Now, it's clear they don't make enough money off their subscriptions. That's why they're having to do this type of advert system in the free models. But it must also be said, running an AI system is a lot more compute intensive than it is running like a Google search, right? So remember, it costs a lot more electricity, uses a lot more hardware to get an AI result back to you. It's a lot more power intensive. In time, hopefully that'll get better, but it's just a lot more intensive. So ChatGPT and OpenAI's problem is it's very expensive to deliver what they're delivering. So they're trying to do anything to make as much money as they can, which is a worry, because Sam Altman is on record saying, if we actually start putting adverts into ChatGPT, that's when we need to worry. So there's obviously been quite a lot of talk about an OpenAI phone. Now, Johnny Ives actually, his company was bought out by OpenAI for a couple of billion. Now, Johnny Ives is the original iPhone designer, the actual design of the phone. I think he worked on the iMac as well. He was a massive Apple designer back in the day. He's a British guy, yada, yada, yada. His design startup, in fact, I've got an article, so I'll show you. So his design startup was called Startup.io, maybe, I don't know, whatever it was called. Sam Altman and OpenAI bought them for a couple of billion, and it thinks what they might be going to sort of doing this year, instead of coming out with a phone, they're going to come out with an earbud. So there may be some sort of ChatGPT earbud which comes out, which is going to be obviously linked to the AI, and you'll be able to ask it questions. Maybe it can do on-the-fly sort of translation or something like that. Those would be useful features. The question is, would enough people buy this to make OpenAI money to keep them going? Because the big issue they've got, and to use Google as an example here and as a comparison, Google, they've got a ton of revenue coming in, right, from other like revenue streams that they can then use in AI. OpenAI has nothing. It's just got ChatGPT and the other models that it offers. That's it. It doesn't make any money, so it needs tons of investment. So where does it get all this investment from? Okay, so we'll take a look at this, because you've probably seen this before, but it is the sort of circular nature of all the AI investment. And is there an AI bubble? Why is it all the AI companies are just basically funding each other? What the hell is going on? But you can see here, this gives you kind of representative sizes of these companies and where their money is going. Obviously, Nvidia is the big, massive bubble in the middle. You know, biggest company in the world by market cap and all of that stuff. At least I think it still is. It must be. It's definitely one or two. But it was worth 4.5 trillion at one point, massive amounts of money. And then you've got OpenAI. Now, OpenAI has been valued at 500 billion. And then what you've got is this web of investments which are going from Nvidia to OpenAI. If you see the turquoise color or the blue color, well, I guess the turquoise because there is a blue one, and that is the investment inflow. So you can see Nvidia is investing, OpenAI then investing into AMD. You know, Microsoft are investing into OpenAI. Yeah. It's just it's not a mess, I guess. It kind of is if you view it that way. But this is showing you that OpenAI, where it's getting its investment from, it's not just going to carry on forever, because some of these companies are actually, I mean, this doesn't include companies like Google, Facebook, and Meta and those companies. Google are obviously a bit bigger than them, quite a lot bigger. But, you know, maybe there's a world where Nvidia completely like consumes OpenAI, and then it becomes their sort of AI model. I don't know. Like, it's just, it's a mess. So what's the takeaway from this, right? Well, obviously we're gamers. I'm a gamer. I enjoy using hardware. The fact is, everything is getting more expensive. And is it going to get cheaper anytime soon? And the answer to that is probably no. The only thing that would stop that is if there was a major crash with some sort of major AI company, probably OpenAI, if I'm going to be honest, going under or having massive money problems. Now, it's highly likely that something like that, if it happens, it won't happen in the way I think a lot of us think, where it's just going to be a massive instant collapse. It will be things going wrong, and then maybe the bits of the company get sold off, or they get pushed into a different company, or it's actually, we work out we don't need this much power to run these AI models. We've got more efficient models, or maybe we've got more efficient hardware, so we don't need all this stuff. So it'll start bringing costs down. The problem is, though, for me and you, it means everything computer related and I've got to correct myself here because it's technology related, really, because it isn't just phones and games consoles and PCs. It's also like your television and things like that. Anything that's using memory, anything that's using storage, the prices of those components is going astronomically through the roof. The prices of everything else is following suit. We've already seen a lot of the companies like AMD and Nvidia actually reducing or increasing the cost of, well, in a lot of cases, it's reducing the output of certain graphics cards that they make because it just simply isn't worth it for them to be making those over their AI focused machines because there's a lot more money going in that sort of arena. So this is a problem which is going to, I think, persist for a while, guys. Now, I hope this video has been quite interesting. I know it's been a long one and maybe would have benefited from a script or something. I don't know. But I just think AI, it's such like an interesting topic, but it's so negatively viewed at the moment, and rightfully so. And it should be, because we're not seeing any sort of great usage of it. And the question is, will we see any great usage anytime soon? I don't know. I don't actually think we will. I think there's going to be some big problems coming fairly soon. But you guys let me know what you think about this in the comments below. And remember, to keep Satya happy, find a use for his awesome AI co-pilot, as he's going to be mad. All right, guys, I'll catch you a lot on the next one. Remember, you can follow me on everything, which is at Stylosa. And yeah, I'm out of here to go and talk to my only friend, ChatGPT.